Welcome to Fear No Evil, where Psalms 23 is my foundational scripture, and where the Lord or Yeshua is my shepherd at all times. I'm back to water. I encourage any sexual abuse survivor, or any abuse survivor, physical, mental, spiritual, psychological, to find water somewhere. It is very healing, very peaceful. I grew up around water. And so I didn't fully comprehend it as a child, but as I got older, I realized how water is nature's way of restoring the soul. So I encourage anyone who has a history of childhood sexual abuse, or even just physical abuse, or any type of abuse, or even adult domestic violence, go find some water. The water will help you find peace. It will begin to free your mind, and you'll be able to think clearly and feel very clearly. And sometimes I've made my most courageous decisions because I sat by water and allowed it to restore my soul and to bring a refreshing to me from the top of my head to the sole of my feet. I love nature, and I thank Yeshua that he allowed me to grow up in one of the most beautiful places where I was surrounded by nature on a daily basis. And I was able to benefit from all the healing aspects that nature can bring to people. Now, my quote for the day is: the greatest gift you can give to others is unconditional love and acceptance. And that was written by Mike William Dyer. However, you cannot give that to others if you do not accept yourself and if you do not love yourself unconditionally. And as a child sexual abuse survivor, it's very hard for survivors to accept that they were abused, to accept the manifestations, to accept the journey of healing that they must partake on for the rest of their lives. It is hard sometimes to love themselves when they see themselves acting out in rage or anger or bitterness, sometimes even hate, because they're not dealing with the issue of being a sexual abuse survivor. Although it is the most difficult thing or person or identity to be, it is probably one of the greatest gifts ever. And I know that's hard for survivors to understand. How can you say that being a survivor is one of the greatest gifts? Because when you partake on the healing journey, you begin to realize who you are, and you begin to accept yourself, and you begin to accept humanity as being fallen, and you begin to accept how fallen other people are. And as you allow the Lord, as I allowed the Lord, I'm going to make it personal to me because it's not always everybody's experience. As I allowed the Lord to bring healing to my soul, and I allowed myself to forgive people who had hurt me, I was also able to forgive myself, because as a sexual abuse survivor, if you're not on the healing journey, you will hurt other people. And when you come to realize that, you begin to have a life change. And within that life change, you begin to forgive those who have hurt you, especially the perpetrator. You begin to forgive God. Especially as a survivor, you always think that the Lord allowed it to happen. I haven't met a survivor yet who has said to me, I never felt that God didn't allow it to happen. You do feel God is allowing it to happen as it's happening. And you get very angry. Because if you do believe in God, you wonder, how could such a big God, who has control of everything, not stop the sexual abuse or even allow it to happen? And that becomes a very spiritual maturing process to go through, because I've come to learn that everybody's going to have their own problems in life. Everybody's going to have their own pain. It's going to differ in intensity. It's going to differ when it happens. But everybody's going to go through it. And after a while, I have found that the most loving and the most giving people are childhood sexual abuse survivors. And that includes the people in the LGBT. But my theory is they are so angry at God, and they are so angry at the Christians around them. Some of them don't even remember that they were abused. Some of them can't even put words to that experience in childhood. Some of them have still blocked it and gone on. And I'm not just talking about LGBT people. I'm talking about childhood sexual abuse survivors. There's a real anger there. And anyone who has been sexually abused understands that anger. But you can't live in that anger. You have to come out of that anger. Now, coming out of that anger for me was through the Lord. But I can't make anybody go through it. I can't make anybody believe. I can't make anyone go that way. You have to find your way. Because you deserve a better life. You deserve a life of love, healing, peace, joy, laughter. But you have to seek it. You have to seek it through the pain. It's not going to come it's not just going to come to you. And until you face your past as a childhood sexual abuse survivor, something is always amiss in your future. And that's why it's important for those who are in the LGBT who are sexual abuse survivors to acknowledge that they are. Because until they do, they're still living a lie. They're still living a delusion. They're still living not the truth. And sexual abuse survivors need to learn to live in the truth of the abuse, what that abuse did to them. Because every sexual abuse survivor has a gift that they will give to the world, that they will give to other people, whether it be through music, art, song, words, work, children. But they're going to have to dig through the pain to find it. And that's why it's important for all child sexual abuse survivors to speak out publicly. And I discount how many people want to tell sexual abuse survivors that they need to be in a psychiatrist's office talking about it and nowhere else. Not true. Sexual abuse survivors are the quietest victims in society, but their voices need to be heard. And their voices aren't being heard in the Me Too movement. Don't be fooled. They need to come out and start speaking so that they can pull other sexual abuse survivors out of that darkness, because nobody's pulling them out. No one's gonna pull them out. And if they do pull them out, it's for their own agenda. And every sexual abuse survivor deserves to be pulled out of their darkness, and they deserve to live the life that the Lord has given to them, but that Satan stole from them through the act, the most evil act. I can't think of a more evil act than childhood sexual abuse.